I drop my overnight bag on Grandpa Arthur's doorstep, my hands shaking so badly I can barely press the doorbell. The folder of medical information I'd hastily compiled spills onto the concrete, insurance cards, and medication lists scattering in the autumn breeze. My lungs burn from running up the steps after abandoning my rental car in the driveway. Mom's voice still echoes in my head. "Willow, it's Dad. We think he's had a stroke. You need to get here now." The door swings open. My grandfather stands before me, wearing his favorite cardigan and holding a mug of coffee. His silver eyebrows rise in surprise. "Willow? What are you doing here?" My knees nearly buckle. "Grandpa, you're okay?" "Of course I'm okay. Why wouldn't I be?" I stumble past him into the foyer, heart hammering against my ribs. Mom called me about a stroke. I was in Denver. I canceled my presentation to the investment board. I got on the first flight. He frowns, setting his mug on the entryway table. "That's strange. I haven't spoken to your mother in 3 days." A cold suspicion trickles down my spine. I pull out my phone with trembling fingers and open Instagram. There it is, posted 2 hours ago. My mother, father, and brother Jackson on a beach. Margaritas raised in a toast. The location tag reads, Cabo San Lucas. I turn the screen toward Grandpa. His confused expression shifts to understanding as he studies the image. "They told me you were too busy to join them," he says quietly. "That you had important meetings all week." The betrayal punches me in the stomach. They lied to both of us. At 32, I've spent years working double shifts, waitressing through college and my MBA program while my parents paid every cent of my younger brother's education. The same brother who never held a job until our family handed him one at Reyes Retreats, the boutique hotel chain my grandfather built from nothing. Just 3 months ago, my parents had promised me leadership of the new Seattle branch, a position I'd earned through years of loyalty and proven business acumen. 2 weeks before the launch, they quietly canceled the plan, giving the position to Jackson instead. "He just has the right personality for hospitality," my father explained, as if my years in the business meant nothing. My hand stops shaking as anger replaces shock. I call my mother, putting the phone on speaker. She answers on the 5th ring, the sound of laughter and waves in the background. "I'm with Grandpa," I say, my voice steady despite my racing heart. "He's perfectly fine." A pause. "Oh, well, I must have misunderstood what your father said. These things happen, honey." "Misunderstood?" I pull up the family vacation photos again. "Is Cabo nice this time of year?" Another pause, longer this time. "You're overreacting again. We tried to include you, but you said you were busy with work." "That's interesting, since I never received an invitation." I look at Grandpa, whose jaw has tightened. "And you told Grandpa I was too busy to visit him." "Willow, really, these misunderstandings wouldn't happen if you stayed more connected with the family instead of always focusing on work." Grandpa gestures for the phone. I hand it to him. "Elena," he says, his voice surprisingly firm for a man they tried to convince me was at death's door. "This wasn't a misunderstanding. It was a lie." He hangs up and hands the phone back to me. "They've been doing this for years, Willow, keeping us apart." I follow him into his study, where sunlight streams through tall windows. "What do you mean?" "They've been cutting me out of decisions despite the fact that I founded the company." He lowers himself into his leather chair. "Just like they've been cutting you out in favor of Jackson." My stomach tightens. "But you're still the majority shareholder. And, on paper." He opens a drawer and pulls out a folder. "But they've been making moves behind my back. And yours. And yours." The realization crashes over me like a wave. Every time I stayed late at the office, every business trip I took, every sacrifice I made to earn their respect, none of it mattered. They never intended to see me as their equal. I sink into the chair across from my grandfather, my only ally in a family that has never truly wanted me to succeed. "What are we going to do?" I ask. A small smile crosses his face. "Fight back." I follow Grandpa Arthur into his study, still trying to process the Cabo photos. The room smells of leather-bound books, and the faint trace of his aftershave. He walks to the far wall, his movements deliberate as he slides back a panel revealing a hidden wall safe. "I've been gathering evidence for months," he says, spinning the dial with practiced precision. "Never thought I'd need to use it against my own son." The safe swings open. He withdraws a thick manila folder stamped confidential in red block letters. These are copies of transactions, trust documents, and internal memos that Elena and Dean didn't think I had access to. His voice wavers slightly as he places the folder on his mahogany desk. "You better sit down for this, Willow." My stomach tightens as I flip open the folder. Bank statements. Trust withdrawal forms. Board meeting minutes. My vision blurs as I process what I'm seeing. This can't be right, I whisper, tracing a finger down a column of numbers. $2.1 million. My trust fund. Systematically drained. Arthur confirms, his jaw clenched. To fund Jackson's lifestyle. The Aspen condo. The yacht membership. The consulting fees that never produced any actual work. My legs give out and I sink into the leather chair. The room spins as I stare at a document detailing a $190,000 payment to a law firm specializing in traffic violations. Jackson's drunk driving accident last year. Arthur explains. The one that never happened. A pedestrian was injured. Your parents used your money to make it disappear. I push aside the nausea rising in my throat as I uncover a draft agreement to transfer ownership of Reyes Retreats entirely to Jackson upon Arthur's death. An additional $2.1 million inheritance they plan to steal from me. I need to call Diana, I say, pulling out my phone with trembling fingers. Arthur nods. Your cousin might be the only attorney we can trust right now. Diana picks up on the third ring. I put her on speaker and spread the documents across the desk where she can see them through the video call. Arthur stands beside me, his hand steady on my shoulder. These statements show systematic fraud, Diana says, her attorney voice clear and confident through the speaker. Look at the dates, they align perfectly with the board meetings where you were conveniently sent to inspect other properties. She points to a document partially visible on screen. That transfer to the Cayman account? That's not just family favoritism, Willow. It's fraud and misuse of fiduciary responsibility. Arthur pushes another folder toward the camera. What about these? Diana's sharp intake of breath is audible. These are papers for a competency hearing. They were trying to have you declared mentally incompetent, Arthur. Grandpa's face drains of color. He grips the edge of the desk, knuckles white. My own son. There's more. Diana continues, her voice hardening. Tax evasion, offshore accounts, falsified board minutes. She looks directly at me. They were going to take everything from both of you. The weight of this revelation crushes against my chest. My entire life, the double shifts to pay for college, the missed vacations to work holiday hours, the blind loyalty to a family business, all built on foundations of lies. What happens if they succeed? I ask, my mouth dry. You lose everything. Diana answers bluntly. Not just the $2.1 million they've already taken, but your position in the company, your inheritance, everything. I think about the New York position I turned down 3 months ago. Executive Finance Director at Harrison Hotels, a 6-figure salary, stock options. All rejected to stay with the family business. You'll face financial ruin, Arthur says quietly, while Jackson enjoys the fruits of my 50 years of labor. Diana's voice softens. Willow, if you fight this, they'll cut all ties. You understand that, right? This isn't just about money. You'll lose what remains of your family. I laugh bitterly. What family? The people who lied to me my entire life? Arthur sinks into his chair, suddenly looking every one of his 76 years. There's something else you should know. He rubs his chest absently. My health isn't perfect. Early-stage heart issues. Nothing immediately life-threatening, but you need someone you can trust. I finish for him. He nods, pulling a folder from his desk drawer. These papers name you as my healthcare proxy and financial power of attorney. If you're willing. My hand doesn't shake as I take the pen he offers. I sign each line with deliberate strokes, a small victory amid the devastation. The weight of responsibility settles across my shoulders, not just for me, but for the man who built everything my parents are trying to steal. As I hold these signed papers, I wonder if I should confront my parents immediately or build my case silently. The thought of seeing their faces when I revealed what I knew was tempting, but patience might give me the advantage of surprise. Would you choose immediate confrontation or strategic patience when faced with such a profound betrayal? A week later, the ballroom of the Paramount Hotel glitters with champagne flutes and forced laughter. I stand alone near a potted palm, watching my parents beam at photographers as they announce Jackson as the new CEO of Reyes Retreats. My brother's practiced smile never wavers as he feeds the crowd rehearsed lines about innovative direction and fresh leadership. Willow, a former colleague approaches, then stops abruptly. Oh, I thought you'd left the company already. I force my face to remain neutral. Just restructuring my role. She glances toward my parents, then back at me. Well, good luck with whatever comes next. She walks away before I can respond. This scene repeats 5 times before I slip out the service entrance. My phone buzzes with a text from our marketing director canceling our meeting tomorrow, the 3rd cancellation this week. The following morning, a financial alert from my bank flashes across my screen. The property in Sedona, part of my inheritance, has been sold, without my knowledge or consent. The transaction lists my brother as the authorized agent. I call our family attorney but reach his voicemail. When I try the company's legal department, the receptionist puts me on hold, then returns to inform me my access has been temporarily suspended pending leadership transition. Later that afternoon, Jackson appears on the regional business report. The company needed saving from years of mismanagement, he says smoothly. Sometimes family loyalty means making difficult decisions. The statement lands like a physical blow. 10 years of 60-hour weeks, of canceled vacations and postponed relationships, all dismissed as mismanagement. Back at my apartment, I discover my company email suddenly requires a password I've never set. When I call IT, they explain the system change was authorized by leadership. In days to come, sleep becomes a luxury I can't afford. I lie awake, calculating losses, replaying conversations, searching for warnings I should have recognized. The apartment I once found peaceful now feels like a cage, its walls closing in with each passing night. During a conference call I managed to join anonymously, I hear a board member refer to me as the Reyes situation. My hands shake so badly I drop my coffee mug. It shatters against the floor as the call continues without my voice. My dining room transforms into a war room. Financial statements cover every surface. Legal references stack in towers beside my grandfather's original company documents. I create timelines of every suspicious decision, every unexplained transfer. The scattered pieces slowly form a pattern of calculated betrayal spanning years. The knock at my door comes at an unexpected hour, one Wednesday evening. I open it cautiously to find Margaret, our family housekeeper for 20 years, standing in the hallway. "Miss Willow," she whispers, pressing a small key into my palm. "Some things aren't right. Your grandfather taught me that silence makes us complicit." I recognize the key immediately. It opens my father's private office. The opportunity comes 3 nights later during a family dinner I attend only to maintain appearances. While my mother leads guests on a tour of their recent renovations, I slip away. The key turns smoothly in the lock of my father's study. Inside, I move efficiently through filing cabinets, photographing documents that confirm everything we suspected. Transfer authorizations bearing forged signatures, backdated board minutes, amendments to trust documents with questionable witnesses. 15 minutes later, the door swings open. My father stands in the doorway, face darkening as he registers what I'm doing. "What do you think you're doing in here?" His voice carries the same tone he used when I was 8, and colored on his desk calendar. I continue photographing a particularly damning memo, "Finding the truth you've been hiding from me my entire life." He steps forward, looming over me the way he always has. But for the first time, I don't shrink back. Instead, I stand taller. "Get out before I call security," he hisses, reaching for my arm. I hold up my phone, screen displaying the dozens of images I've already captured. I've already copied everything I need. His face transforms, the mask of paternal authority dropping to reveal naked fear. In that moment, the strangest feeling washes over me. I'm no longer afraid of his disapproval. The realization is so liberating I almost laugh. "You've always underestimated me," I say quietly. "That was your biggest mistake." Later that night, Diana works through the night organizing the evidence. Her apartment resembles a legal war room, documents spread across every surface as she drafts motions and prepares filings. "I don't want payment," she says when I mention compensation. "Consider this 20 years of repayment for how they treated my mother." Grandpa Arthur arrives with a weathered leather portfolio. "The original company formation documents," he explains. "Your parents thought these were destroyed in the office fire last year." Margaret calls with locations of additional files. "The garden shed behind the pool house," she whispers, "hidden under the flooring. I've watched them hide things there for years." These people, this unlikely alliance of the overlooked and underestimated, stand with me, not because we share blood, but because we share values. The contrast with my parents' manipulation, has never been clearer. In Diana's kitchen, we review the final strategy. A forgotten clause in the original company contract allows for ownership revocation in cases of proven fraud. There's something else, Diana says, sliding a folder across the table. The FBI has already been investigating Jackson's accident. The agent I spoke with believes there's evidence of bribery. The next morning, I walk through the glass doors of Reyes Retreat's headquarters. The receptionist's eyes widen at my appearance. I move past her toward the boardroom, where the quarterly meeting is underway. Behind me, 4 FBI agents follow in silent formation. For the first time in months, a smile touches my lips. I walk into the Reyes Retreat's boardroom, with my spine straight as a ruler. The polished mahogany table gleams under recessed lighting, reflecting the stunned faces of board members as FBI agents file in quietly behind me. My mother's champagne glass freezes midway to her lips. Jackson's smug smile falters. My father stands abruptly, chair scraping against hardwood. "What's the meaning of this, Willow?" he demands. I place my leather portfolio on the table. I'm here to present evidence of serious financial misconduct within Reyes Retreats. The room falls silent. I remove a stack of documents from my portfolio, passing copies to each board member with steady hands. Gone is the trembling daughter desperate for approval. In her place stands a woman with irrefutable proof. These financial statements show systematic fraud dating back 5 years. I say, my voice calm despite my racing heart. Page 3 details how $2.1 million of my trust was diverted to unauthorized accounts. Page 7 shows company funds used to cover up Jackson's drunk driving incident last year. Board member Patricia Morton adjusts her glasses, her eyes widening as she reviews the numbers. This is absurd. My father interrupts, his face reddening. These documents are clearly fabricated. I continue as if he hadn't spoken. Arthur's original contract contains a specific clause regarding ethical conduct. I point to the highlighted section. It states clearly, if evidence of fraud or unethical conduct emerges, ownership may be revoked. Board Chairman Richard Donovan leans forward, his bushy eyebrows drawing together. These allegations are extremely serious, Dean. They're also completely true, I add. I formally request a vote to remove my parents and brother from company leadership, effective immediately. These are... The CFO slides his chair away from my father, a subtle but unmistakable distancing. 2 other board members exchange glances, then close their folders simultaneously. Jackson jumps to his feet, knocking over his water glass. This is ridiculous. She's fabricated everything out of jealousy, because Dad chose me to lead the company. A man in a dark suit steps forward from the line of FBI agents. Mr. Reyes, I'm Special Agent Becker. We have independent evidence regarding the incident in Aspen last winter, including documentation of the $190,000 payment to the victim's family, using company funds. Jackson's face drains of color. My mother stands, smoothing her silk blouse with trembling fingers. This is a family matter that should be handled privately. I move to adjourn this meeting immediately. Chairman Donovan clears his throat. Elena, using company funds for personal matters is precisely why we're having this discussion. Board member Martin Wright, who has golfed with my father for 20 years, turns to him with newfound suspicion. Dean, what about that expansion property in Sedona? Was that purchase properly authorized? My father doesn't answer, sweat beading along his hairline. When the board chairman asks if I want my parents arrested or simply removed from the company, I hesitate. Would justice be better served by public consequences, or by simply taking back what was mine while preserving what remained of the family name? The boardroom door opens. Grandpa Arthur enters slowly, leaning on his cane. His silver hair catches the light, and despite his frail appearance, his presence fills the room. Conversations cease instantly. I founded this company 50 years ago, he says, his voice stronger than his body suggests. I built it on integrity, not deceit. Diana follows him in, carrying a leather document case. Her attorney's confidence radiates as she approaches the table. I've prepared legal documentation transferring Arthur's controlling shares to Willow Reyes, she announces, placing the papers before the chairman. These transfers are executed and legally binding as of this morning. Margaret steps forward from where she'd been waiting by the door. The sight of our family housekeeper in the boardroom causes my mother's jaw to drop. I've witnessed documents being destroyed in the Reyes home. Margaret states firmly, Financial papers, contracts, and correspondence that Mr. Dean Reyes specifically instructed me to burn. I kept records of dates and descriptions. The chairman reviews the transfer documents, then looks up at my grandfather. Arthur, are you certain about this decision? More certain than I've been about anything in years, Grandpa replies. The vote is swift and unanimous. My parents and Jackson are removed from all company positions, effective immediately. I stand at the head of the table, the position my father occupied just minutes ago. The weight of the moment settles on my shoulders, not as a burden but as a mantle I was born to wear. Across the room, Jackson's confident smile completely dissolves as comprehension dawns. His eyes dart between the FBI agents and the board members, searching for an ally and finding none. My mother's carefully applied makeup runs as tears stream down her face. This will destroy the company, she whispers. But the board members who have seen the evidence remain unmoved by her performance. My father pushes back his chair and stands. This meeting is over. We'll be contesting these ridiculous allegations. He turns toward the door, but finds 2 FBI agents blocking his path. Dean Reyes, we have some questions regarding tax evasion and misappropriation of funds, Agent Becker says. I gather my documents and address the room. I'm calling an emergency company-wide meeting for tomorrow morning at 9. Every employee deserves to know what's happening and that their jobs are secure. I meet my father's gaze directly. Some things are about to change around here. The text on my phone screen is simple but loaded with desperation. We need to talk before this goes any further. Dad's office. 7 a.m. I delete my mother's message without responding, but I'll be there, not because they deserve it, but because I want to see their faces. At precisely 7, I stride into my father's office. The space feels different now, smaller somehow. My parents and Jackson look up as I enter. Dad sits unnaturally straight behind his desk, his usual commanding posture now appearing forced. Mom's eyes are red-rimmed, tissues clutched in her hand. Jackson paces by the window, stopping mid-stride when he sees me. Willow, please sit down, my father says, his voice uncharacteristically soft. We want to explain everything. I remain standing. I've heard enough explanations for a lifetime. You're overreacting, Mom interjects, dabbing at her eyes. We've always had your best interests at heart. By stealing my inheritance? By trying to have Grandpa declared incompetent? Dad spreads his hands in a placating gesture. Look, we can reach a compromise. We'll make a public apology. You can have shared control of the Seattle properties. In return, you drop the most serious charges. Think about what you're doing, Mom adds, her voice hardening despite her tear-stained face. The scandal will destroy everything your grandfather built. When that doesn't move me, she shifts strategies. Your behavior shows you're unfit to lead. Perhaps we should revisit Arthur's competency evaluation. He clearly wasn't thinking clearly when he transferred those shares. The old Willow would have flinched at this threat. Today, I smile. I've already met with the major investors, I say, pulling a folder from my briefcase. They're fully aware of the situation and support my leadership. I lay out statements from hotel staff across the table. These are testimonials about improved working conditions since I took operational control last week. Turns out people work harder when they're not terrified of being fired for speaking up. My father reaches for the papers, but I pull them back. I'm not here to negotiate. I'm here to inform. I stand taller, no longer diminished by their presence. For 32 years, you've undermined me while pretending to support me. You promised me the Seattle branch, then gave it to Jackson. You helped him through college while I worked double shifts. You stole my inheritance while telling me I wasn't ready for responsibility. My voice remains steady as I deliver the final blow. I don't need your approval anymore. I never actually had it. And Jackson pushes away from the window. This is ridiculous. You can't. Your choices are simple, I continue, ignoring him. Face full charges for fraud, embezzlement, and conspiracy, or surrender all claims to the business and repay what you've taken. I check my watch. You have until the company meeting at 9 to decide. The grand atrium of Reyes Retreats headquarters buzzes with nervous energy as employees fill the space. Sunlight streams through the glass ceiling, illuminating the gathered crowd. I spot my parents and Jackson entering through a side door, their security badges temporarily reactivated for this meeting only. I take the stage, adjusting the microphone. Thank you all for coming today. I'm Willow Reyes, And as of yesterday, I've assumed control of Reyes Retreats following evidence of serious financial improprieties by previous management. A murmur ripples through the crowd. I catch my father's scowl from the corner of my eye. My first action as CEO is to announce a complete restructuring of our company. I pause, meeting the eyes of longtime employees who'd previously looked through me. Effective immediately, we're introducing profit sharing for all employees who have been with us for more than 1 year. The ripple becomes a wave of surprised whispers. Additionally, I'd like to recognize someone whose loyalty and integrity have been instrumental in preserving what's best about this company. I gesture toward the back of the room. Margaret Franklin, would you please join me? Margaret walks forward, her practical shoes clicking against the marble floor. She's worked for my family since before I was born, always in the background, always watching. Margaret is being promoted to executive housekeeper with oversight of all Reyes Retreat properties. Her first task will be to implement a living wage for all housekeeping staff. Applause erupts as I shake Margaret's hand. My mother's face contorts with shock. Margaret was just the help in her eyes. I'm also establishing the Arthur Vernon Scholarship Fund for the children of our employees. Education changed my life, and it should be accessible to everyone in our Reyes family, our real family. As I speak, maintenance workers wheel a cart toward the lobby wall where my parents' portraits have hung for 15 years. They carefully remove the formal oil paintings, replacing them with a photograph of Grandpa Arthur and me at last year's Christmas party, both of us laughing at some forgotten joke. When the meeting ends, employees who once hurried past me in hallways now approach with congratulations and ideas for improvements. My parents and Jackson stand frozen near the exit, their badges already deactivated, effectively locked out of the empire they thought they controlled. Later that afternoon, whispers spread through the office about the settlement my parents signed. The rumors suggest they'll face substantial financial penalties, with the possibility of jail time still looming if they violate the terms. Later that afternoon, I'm reviewing proposals for the Seattle property when my assistant knocks. Your brother is here. He insists on seeing you. I nod, curious despite myself. When Jackson enters my office, he's alone, no parents backing him, no swagger in his step. For the first time since we were children, he looks directly at me, instead of through me. I didn't know, he says quietly, his voice unfamiliar without its usual arrogance. About all of it, I swear. I set down my pen and wait, wondering what happens next to a family shattered by its own lies. A year later, I adjust the presentation slides on my tablet, double-checking the quarterly profits before the board meeting begins. A year since taking control, and Reyes Retreats' profits have climbed 22%. Not bad for the daughter they never thought would lead. The boardroom door swings open. As executives file in, the same people who once looked through me now greet me by name, their handshakes firm, their eye contact steady. Last month, 3 major hotel publications requested interviews. 6 months ago, these industry leaders barely acknowledged my existence. Let's begin, I announce, my voice carrying easily across the room, without the hesitation that once plagued it. After the meeting, I walk through our flagship property, stopping to chat with Carmen about her son's college applications. The scholarship committee meets next week. Make sure his paperwork is in. Thank you, Miss Reyes. Under your father, I wouldn't have even mentioned my children. I've expanded the Arthur Vernon Scholarship Fund to help 38 employees' children this year. When I greet the housekeeping staff by name, Maria, Thomas, Lena, their surprised smiles remind me how my parents treated them as invisible machinery. Later that evening, the industry's annual gala sparkles with the same crystal chandeliers and champagne fountains as last year. But everything else has changed. I smooth my emerald gown, no more blending into backgrounds with muted blues and grays. This year's Hotelier of the Year has achieved remarkable growth while implementing revolutionary employee benefit programs. The announcer's voice booms. When they call my name, applause thunders through the ballroom. Exactly 1 year ago, in this very room, they announced Jackson as CEO. Now I stand at the same podium, the weight of the Crystal Award solid in my hands. Success isn't about what you own, I say into the microphone, the tremor gone from my voice. It's about the legacy of integrity you build. This award belongs to every employee who trusted me with their livelihoods. I find Grandpa Arthur in the audience, his eyes bright with unshed tears. My grandfather taught me that true leadership is earned through service, not inherited through bloodlines. It's a lesson I carry every day. 2 weeks later, Arthur raises his glass across the table at Diana's lakeside home. Margaret sits beside him, her normally starched posture relaxed in retirement. The candlelight catches the silver in Arthur's hair as we celebrate 1 year since taking control. To the family we choose, rather than the family we're born into. Diana proposes. To integrity restored, Margaret adds, her voice warm with satisfaction. Arthur watches me with pride as I outline plans for our Miami expansion. You've exceeded every expectation, Willow, not just as a businesswoman but as a leader. The autumn sun slants through my office window the following Monday as I review blueprints for our newest concept, boutique hotels built around employee well-being centers. Properties where staff needs receive the same careful attention as guest amenities. My assistant knocks softly. This came for you by courier. She hands me a cream-colored envelope. Inside, a letter from Jackson. The restaurant venture he started in Seattle's Second Table employs people needing second chances. Former inmates, recovering addicts, domestic violence survivors. I learned from watching you rebuild what our parents tried to destroy, he writes. Maybe someday we could talk again? I place the letter beside the photograph I keep on my desk. Grandpa Arthur at 25, standing before his first hotel, holding the business plan written in his careful script. Next to it sits my own vision for Reyes Retreats' future, one built on fairness and respect rather than favoritism and deceit. As I read my brother's letter asking if we might someday speak again, I wonder about the delicate balance between forgiveness and self-protection. Can family bonds be rebuilt after such betrayal? Or is it wiser to cherish what was good, while accepting that some relationships are better left in the past? What would you do? I stand at the entrance of Pine Rock Lake Resort, my clipboard pressed against my chest like armor. The Montana mountains rise behind me, indifferent witnesses to what's about to unfold. Again. The same ritual, the same family, the same invisible me. Charlene's silver Lexus appears first, winding up the tree-lined drive, sunlight glinting off polished chrome. My mother-in-law doesn't even look at me as she steps out, designer sunglasses perched on her perfectly highlighted hair. Valerie. She hands me her Louis Vuitton luggage without making eye contact. Not a question about my drive here, not a comment about the weather. Just my name, an acknowledgement of my existence, and nothing more. Good to see you too, Charlene. I take the bag, adding it to my mental tally of slights. Year 11, day 1. Behind her, Paige's red BMW convertible screeches to a halt. My sister in law's voice carries across the parking lot, her phone pressed between her shoulder and ear. Absolutely record-breaking. The buyers didn't even blink at the asking price. She waves distractedly in my direction. Let me call you back. Family stuff. Family stuff. As if I qualify. I check off their names on my clipboard, my own private scoreboard. Joel arrives last, his sensible sedan dusty from the drive. He kisses my cheek, a quick peck that carries the weight of an apology he hasn't yet earned the right to make. Everything okay? He asks. I nod. What else can I do? Tell him that after 10 years I'm suffocating under the weight of his family's dismissal? That each year chips away another piece of the woman he married? Perfect, I lied. The resort restaurant glows with amber light, windows reflecting the lake where silver ripples catch the sunset. White tablecloths, crystal glasses, waitstaff moving with practiced precision. I've spent weeks planning this gathering, making sure everything would be flawless. I finalize the contract for the Westlake project. I mention when conversation lulls. The Renewable Energy Initiative should. Darling, Charlene interrupts, her voice honeyed with false warmth. Would you mind checking if they have those crackers you fetched last year, the ones with the seeds? Joel studies his menu intently, suddenly fascinated by the difference between poached and grilled salmon. Of course, I say, pushing back my chair. When I return with the crackers, Paige is mid-story about some celebrity client. She pauses just long enough to stage whisper to Joel's cousin. Valerie has such a helpful nature, so accommodating. The word lands like a slap. Accommodating. The quality of hotel staff, of service providers, not of equals. Joel shifts in his seat but says nothing. His silence roars in my ears. I remember last Christmas organizing the entire Benton family gathering. 32 people, coordinating travel from 4 states, planning menus around 3 different food allergies. And when they gathered for photos, Charlene's gentle suggestion, "Valerie, would you mind taking this one? Just the family." Just the family. Or the dinner celebrating my promotion, when Uncle Richard asked what I actually did all day, then talked over my answer to ask Joel about his semester grading. But it was last summer's retreat that truly broke something inside me. We sat on this very terrace, watching the sunset paint the mountains gold and crimson. Paige had laughed at my detailed itinerary for the week. "You'd make a great office assistant, Val, super organized." Charlene nodded thoughtfully. "Some women are just better behind the scenes, dear." That night, while Joel slept, I walked to the dock alone. The water was black glass under a canopy of stars. I pulled out my phone and typed an email to my college friend in real estate syndication. Subject: that opportunity we discussed. For 9 months, I moved through my life like a ghost with purpose. Meetings in hotel lobbies during work conferences, document reviews at our kitchen table while Joel graded papers. The final signing happened on a Tuesday afternoon in April. My hand didn't shake at all. Now I stand at the resort entrance one day early, watching Charlene hand me her luggage. But this time, there's a difference she can't see. My name is on the deed. I've spent a decade being invisible. Tomorrow, they'll finally see me. And they won't like what they see at all. The next day, I watch from the resort lobby window as the valet accepts Charlene's keys without the usual flourish. No rushing, no special smiles, just the standard professionalism we've implemented for all guests. Her face tightens almost imperceptibly, the first ripple in her perfect world. "Ma'am, would you like assistance with your bags?" he asks, exactly as instructed. Charlene blinks, momentarily thrown by the question. For 10 years, her bags have simply disappeared to her cabin without a word. "Ewell, of course I would." Behind her, Paige slams her car door, phone still glued to her ear. She tosses her keys at the next valet, who catches them without the deferential bow she's accustomed to receiving. I slip away before they enter, retreating to my new office. The resort manager, Thomas, awaits with our morning reports. "Everything going according to the new protocols?" I ask, settling into my chair Italian leather, my one indulgence when updating the space. "Perfectly." His eyes crinkle with something between amusement and respect, though Mrs. Benton seemed surprised when I addressed her as ma'am instead of by name. "Imagine that," I murmur, reviewing the cabin assignments. "Families all in their usual spots?" "Yes, but without the complimentary wine baskets and pre-stocked refrigerators they're used to." I nod, satisfaction warming my chest. Standard welcome packages only, no exceptions. When I join them for dinner, they've been festering for hours. The restaurant hums with the pleasant conversation of regular guests, but our table radiates tension like a cracked reactor. "Valerie," Charlene sets down her water glass with precision, "have you noticed the service isn't what it used to be?" I tilt my head with practiced innocence. "How so?" "The valet barely looked at me when I arrived," Paige interjects, scrolling through her phone. "And my cabin's minibar wasn't stocked with the Vouv I specifically requested last year." "Perhaps management changed hands," I suggested, unfolding my napkin. Uncle Richard snorts. "Heard some faceless investor bought in, probably squeezing every penny from the place." He gestures broadly, wine sloshing dangerously close to the rim of his glass. These types never understand tradition or quality. Joel shifts uncomfortably beside me. "Maybe we should leave a review. Might help them improve." "What an inspired suggestion," I say, my voice neutral while my stomach knots with a decade of swallowed responses. "The sheets aren't even the Egyptian cotton we've grown accustomed to." Charlene continues as if testing how many complaints fit into a single breath, and I had to ask twice for more towels. I sip my wine. The California Cabernet tastes particularly rich tonight. I'm sure management is doing their best. "Their best isn't good enough," Paige snaps. "Not for what we pay." A server approaches, nodding respectfully in my direction, a small acknowledgement that goes unnoticed by everyone except Joel, whose brow furrows slightly. Excuse me for a moment, I say, rising from the table. I need to make a quick call. Their complaints fade as I walk through the restaurant toward the back offices. Thomas meets me in the hallway, holding a leather portfolio. Everything you requested, Miss Benton. Inside my temporary office, I open the portfolio. 10 years of meticulously documented entitlement spread before me in neat columns and formal complaints. Page's unauthorized subletting of their cabin during peak season, charging premium rates while the resort received only the family's discounted payment. Uncle Richard's lease agreement with special rates expired 3 years ago but mysteriously honored each season. 27 documented complaints from housekeeping staff about Charlene's treatment, including one incident where she demanded a housekeeper unpack and organize her lingerie. My fingers trace the staff notes. The Benton family arrival week is our most requested vacation time among staff, one manager had written. Unfortunately, not in a good way. I close the portfolio, something cold and clear crystallizing in my chest. This isn't just about me. It never was. When I return to the table, Joel is attempting to smooth Page's ruffled feathers. I'm sure they'll fix whatever issues you're having with the cabin before tomorrow, he offers. They'd better, she replies. I've already promised Jennifer she could use it next month. She's paying a premium for lakefront access. The portfolio feels heavy in my hands as I retake my seat. Joel notices it immediately. Work stuff? He asks. Something like that, I answered, placing it beside my plate. Resort business, actually. Charlene's eyebrows lift. Don't tell me you're consulting for this place now, though they certainly need the help. Not exactly consulting, I say, my voice steadier than my heartbeat. Uncle Richard guffaws. What then? They've got you fetching extra crackers for the whole resort now. The table erupts in practiced laughter, the kind that's been at my expense for a decade. I don't join in. Instead, I open the portfolio and withdraw a single page. Actually, I say, sliding it toward Paige, I wanted to discuss your subletting arrangement. Her laughter dies instantly. My what? Your habit of renting out the family cabin to your clients. At a considerable markup, I might add. The blood drains from her face so quickly I wonder if she might faint. That's ridiculous. Who told you that? Resort records, I replied. Very thorough ones. Charlene's eyes narrow. Valerie, what exactly are you playing at? I look around the table at each of them, these people who've dismissed me for so long they've forgotten I might be watching. The moment balances on a knife's edge. Soon, everything changes. But tonight I simply smiled. Just gathering information. Isn't that what you've always said I'm good at, Paige? Being super organized? I closed the portfolio. Soon they'll learn exactly what I've organized. A week later, I sat in the back corner of the Lakeside Bistro, my third meeting spot this month. Different city, different coffee shop, same purpose. My consulting portfolio rests on the polished table renewable energy feasibility studies neatly organized inside. But today, it's just a prop. These projections look solid. Marcus slides the real paperwork back across the table, resort acquisition documents hidden between environmental impact assessments. His eyes, shrewd behind wire-rimmed glasses, hold a question. You're sure about this, Valerie? It's a significant investment. I've never been more certain of anything. My voice sounds different these days, lower, steadier, the voice of someone with a purpose beyond accommodation. He nods, collecting his coffee cup. The others are impressed with your strategy. Using the renewable angle to justify the zoning changes was brilliant. A small smile touches my lips. I do know my field. 10 years of being the helpful, quiet daughter-in-law taught me one valuable lesson. People who don't see you also don't notice what you're learning about them. Back at home that evening, Joel grades papers at the dining table, red pen marking student essays with the same methodical precision I've applied to my own project. I spread my consulting work beside him, our elbows occasionally brushing in domesticated harmony. Heavy workload? He asks without looking up. Just finalizing that Montana project. Not a lie. The best secrets hide in plain sight. His pen pauses. The renewable thing? Yes. I shuffle through permits that would reveal everything if he bothered to read them. The solar installation should offset nearly 40% of operational costs. He nods, attention already returning to his student's work. That's nice, Val. 8 words about my career, then silence. The next afternoon, I excuse myself from a faculty luncheon at the university where Joel teaches. Sorry, work call, I explain, and no one questions it. They never do. In my car, I dial into the conference call that will transfer the first payment from my personal accounts. Money I've saved over a decade while Joel's family assumed I was just a consultant. Money that will purchase what they value most. Miss Benton, we've received confirmation of the wire transfer, my attorney says. The syndication group is impressed with your capital contribution. 10 years of careful saving adds up, I reply, watching Joel's colleagues through the restaurant window. They've already closed the small gap where I sat, conversation flowing uninterrupted around my absence. The first time Joel took me to Pine Rock Lake Resort, Charlene made a point of explaining its significance. The Bentons have been coming here for generations, she said, voice dripping with ancestral pride. They know us here. What she didn't know was how I listened to the staff when they thought no one was paying attention. How I noticed the general manager's frustration when the owners refused improvements. How I recognized the potential in the aging property with its perfect lakefront location. What she didn't know was that I had spent my career analyzing infrastructure potential and making things work when others couldn't see the possibilities. That night, after finalizing the first phase of acquisition, I lay awake beside Joel. His breathing is even, peaceful. He has no idea that I've mortgaged our future together on this gamble. Joel, I whisper, knowing he won't wake. I'm buying Pine Rock. Saying it aloud feels both terrifying and liberating. My heart pounds hard enough that I press my palm against my chest, certain the drumming will wake him. It doesn't. In the morning, I check my secure email while Joel showers. The resort's general manager has responded to my confidential inquiry with pages of documentation, staffing issues, deferred maintenance, special arrangements for legacy guests, including detailed records of the Benton family's annual demands. I forward everything to my attorneys with 2 words. As expected. 3 weeks later, I met with the investment group in Denver. 7 people around a conference table, reviewing final projections for the property acquisition. The environmental upgrades will increase value by at least 15% within 18 months. I explain, pointing to charts I've prepared. Tax incentives cover nearly 30% of installation costs. And your personal interest in this property? Asks Sandra, the group's most skeptical member. I maintain eye contact. I know it intimately. I understand its potential and its limitations. I've visited annually for a decade. What I don't say, I know which cabin has plumbing issues every spring. I know which staff members deserve promotion. I know which family has been exploiting loopholes in rental agreements for years. Your expertise in renewable infrastructure is impressive, Sandra concedes. But taking operational control rather than just advisory status is unusual for someone with your background. I smile. Sometimes management requires someone who sees what others miss. On the day I sign the final papers, I wear a blue blazer I purchased for myself, not the burgundy one Charlene once suggested would suit my coloring better. My hand is steady as I sign my name on the line that makes me managing partner with Operational 7. Control. The attorney slides the resort's master keys across the mahogany table. Congratulations, Miss Benton. Pine Rock Lake Resort is now under your direction. I don't cry, I don't laugh. I simply allow myself one deep breath of acknowledgement. A decade of careful navigation has led to this moment. That night, Joel asks about my day while microwaving leftovers. Busy, I say. Finalize that big project. The Montana thing? He stirs pasta without looking up. Yes. I watch him, wondering if he hears the difference in my voice. He doesn't. The Montana thing. 2 months later, I arrived at Pine Rock Lake Resort one day before the annual family retreat. The general manager greets me at the entrance, no clipboard in sight. Everything is prepared according to your specifications, Miss Benton, he says, leading me toward my officino, a guest cabin. Thank you, Richard. I pause at the threshold, taking in the view of the mountains through floor to ceiling windows. And the staff understand the protocols for tomorrow's arrivals? Absolutely, the Benton family will receive exactly the same treatment as any other guests. His smile holds no malice, just professional satisfaction. No more, no less. I nod, setting my briefcase on the desk that now belongs to me. Perfect. Tomorrow, Charlene's silver Lexus will wind up the tree-lined drive. She'll hand her Louis Vuitton luggage to the valet with barely a glance. Paige will arrive talking loudly on her phone about property values and commission rates. And I'll be waiting. Not with a clipboard, but with a deed. The next day, I stand at the window of our lakeside cabin, watching the afternoon light glitter across Pine Rock Lake. Behind me, Joel rummages through his suitcase, humming tunelessly. He has no idea what's coming. Did you see Uncle Richard bring that awful green sweater again? Joel chuckles, holding up his own neatly pressed button-down. The one with the elbow patches? I nod, not turning from the window. Some things never change. But some things do. The resort staff moved differently today, their eyes meeting mine with a new awareness, small nods exchanged when Joel isn't looking. My phone buzzes with a text from Marcus, the general manager. Everything prepared for tonight's announcement. Just say the word. You've been quiet, Joel says, approaching to stand beside me. His hand touches my shoulder, familiar yet somehow foreign. Everything okay? Perfect, I reply. The same answer I've given for 10 years. Through the window, I spot Charlene and Paige walking toward the main lodge, Charlene's hand rising to snap her fingers at a groundskeeper who doesn't respond. Her face tightens with indignation as she says something to Paige, who nods vigorously. We should head down, Joel says, checking his watch. Mom likes to have drinks before dinner. Mom likes it. Mom prefers. Mom expects. The mantra of our marriage. I'll meet you there, I say. I need to make a quick call. His brow furrows momentarily before smoothing out. Work stuff? Something like that. After he leaves, I open my leather portfolio with one page once referred to as my little folder of tasks. Inside rests the future of Pine Rock Lake Resort, signed in triplicate. I run my fingers over the embossed leather, remembering the night I decided enough was enough. The resort bar glows in amber when I arrive 30 minutes later. Crystal glasses catch the light like prisms, throwing tiny rainbows across white tablecloths. Joel's family has claimed their usual corner table, Charlene holding court in a coral blouse that probably cost more than my first car. Valerie, there you are, she says without looking up from her martini. We were just discussing the decline in service standards. Oh? I slide into the remaining chair at the edge of the table naturally. The valet barely acknowledged me. Paige huffs, tapping bright red nails against her wine glass. And our cabin is missing the welcome basket with those European chocolates. Uncle Richard leans forward, wine sloshing dangerously close to the rim of his glass. Someone said some faceless investor group bought the place, probably squeezing every penny. Joel nods sympathetically. Maybe we should leave a review. Might help them improve. I sip my wine slowly, feeling its warmth spread through my chest. I'm sure management is doing their best with the transition. Well, their best isn't good enough, Charlene declares. I've been coming here for 20 years and the staff used to know exactly how I like things. I caught the eye of Emma, the bartender who's worked here since before I met Joel. She gives me the slightest wink. Emma knows exactly who owns Pine Rock now. I heard they're planning renovations, I offer. Sustainable energy upgrades, lakefront restoration. Paige waves this away. God, that sounds dreadful. They'll ruin the charm with all that modern nonsense. Speaking of our cabin, she continues, leaning toward Uncle Richard, I have a client who would pay top dollar to use it next month during the photography festival. We could split the profit like last year. My phone vibrates in my pocket. Another text from Marcus. Documents ready in the office whenever you're ready. Excuse me, I say, rising from my chair. I need to check something. The restroom is down the hall, dear, Charlene says dismissively. I don't correct her. Instead, I walk with measured steps toward the manager's office, past framed photographs of the mountains in every season. The door bears a discreet brass plaque. Management. I knock once before entering. Marcus stands as I close the door behind me. Miss Benton, everything's ready. Show me. He slides a folder across the polished desk. Inside are printouts of complaints, invoices, and emails spanning a decade. The subletting situation? I ask. Documented thoroughly. Marcus points to a spreadsheet. Miss Page has been renting out the family cabin during peak seasons for at least 5 years. No permission granted, no revenue shared with the resort. I nod, scanning further. And Richard's lease? Expired 3 years ago. He's been paying 2018 rates through a verbal agreement with the previous owner. The next page makes my breath catch. A formal complaint from housekeeping staff about Charlene's behavior last summer. Guest threw clothing at staff member when items were returned with insufficient pressing. The staff. I begin. Marcus's expression softens. They've dreaded the Benton family's arrival for years. Your mother-in-law has filed 17 complaints about specific staff members in the past decade. 3 employees quit rather than work during your family's stays. My family. The phrase sticks like a fishbone in my throat. And the announcement arrangements? He straightens. Champagne will be served with the main course. I'll make the introduction at 7:45 precisely. I close the folder, tuck it under my arm. Perfect. When I return to the table, Joel gives me a questioning look. Everything okay? You were gone for a while. Just finalizing some details, I reply, settling back into my seat. Charlene sips her fresh martini. Valerie, be a dear and ask if they have those little bacon-wrapped dates. The waitstaff is ignoring us completely. I meet her eyes directly, something I rarely do. I think we should wait for the main course, Charlene. I hear there's going to be a special announcement tonight. An announcement? She frowns. What could possibly be important enough to interrupt dinner? I smile. You'll see. An hour later, I stand just outside the dining room, taking a final steadying breath. The mahogany doors frame the scene like a portrait. My husband's family seated at their usual table by the windows, lake waters shimmering behind them in the evening light. Charlene raises her wine glass to her lips, her diamond bracelet catching the light. Paige gestures dramatically to Joel's Uncle Richard, who nods with exaggerated importance. Joel sees me first. His brow furrows slightly, perhaps noticing something different in my posture. I am no longer hunched against their judgment. Everything okay, Val? He asks as I slip into my chair. Perfect timing, I say, signaling discreetly to Marcus, the general manager. We'd rehearsed this moment during our early morning meeting. The staff positioned strategically around the dining room caught my eye one by one. Emma at the bar, Robert by the service station, Teresa near the kitchen doors. Small nods, almost imperceptible. A battalion assembled for a battle the enemy doesn't know is coming. Charlene interrupts my thoughts. I was just telling everyone about the appalling service at check-in. Someone should really speak to management. She pronounces management with the disdain usually reserved for discussing vermin. Did you have a specific complaint? I ask, unfolding my napkin across my lap. The young man at reception didn't recognize us. Can you imagine? After all these years, having to spell out my name like some random tourist? She turns to Paige. The standards have absolutely plummeted. I know. Paige agrees, scrolling through her phone. And they put me in cabin 4 instead of 6. I specifically wanted 6 for the client viewing tomorrow. The lighting is all wrong in 4. Uncle Richard swirls his bourbon. I heard some faceless investor bought the place, probably going to ruin it with cost-cutting. No respect for tradition. Joel shifts uncomfortably. Maybe we should leave a review. Might help them improve. I take a slow sip of water, letting the ice clink against my teeth. I'm sure management is aware of your concerns. Marcus approaches with a bottle of champagne, white napkin draped precisely over his arm. He catches my eye, the slightest lift of his eyebrow. Ready? I nod once. Now. The crystal chime of his spoon against glass silences the dining room. Forks pause midway to mouths. Conversations drift into stillness. Ladies and gentlemen, esteemed guests of Pine Rock Lake Resort. Marcus begins, his voice carrying to every corner. Tonight we have the honor of formally introducing someone very special. Over the past 6 months, Pine Rock has undergone subtle but significant changes under new leadership upgrades to our sustainability practices, improvements to staff benefits, and a renewed commitment to treating all our guests with equal respect. Charlene frowns, whispering loudly to Paige. What's this about? We're trying to eat. Marcus continues. We're proud to recognize our new managing partner, whose vision is shaping the future of Pine Rock, Miss Valerie Benton. The dining room erupts in polite applause as I rise from my chair. Paige chokes on her wine, red droplets splattering her white blouse. Charlene freezes, fork suspended between plate and mouth, a piece of salmon dangling precariously. Uncle Richard's tumbler slips from his fingers, bourbon splashing onto the tablecloth. Joel's face drains of color, his eyes wide with shock, recognition, and something else, perhaps a decade of willful blindness suddenly cleared. I walk to the front of the dining room, shoulders squared, chin lifted. The woman they never truly saw now commands every eye in the room. My heels strike the hardwood floor with purpose, each step marking the distance between who I was and who I am. Thank you, Marcus, I say, my voice steady and clear. Pine Rock has always been a special place, a sanctuary where guests come to reconnect with nature and themselves. I scan the dining room, meeting curious gazes. As the new managing partner, my commitment is to ensure every guest receives the same exceptional experience regardless of their last name or how many years they've been coming here. My eyes find Joel's. He stares back, a man witnessing a solar eclipse without proper protection. No exceptions, no discounts, no legacy perks, I continue. Just honest, equal service for everyone who chooses to spend their time with us. I return to our table, a leather portfolio tucked under my arm. The whispers follow me like ripples in water. Charlene attempts recovery, her social smile strained at the edges. Valerie, darling, she begins, voice honeyed with false warmth. What a delightful surprise. Why didn't you tell us about this little venture of yours? I set the portfolio on the table. You never asked, Charlene, about this or about me for 10 years. I open the folder, extracting several documents with practiced precision. Page, all unauthorized subletting of resort property has been terminated, effective immediately. I slide the first document across the table. Your planned showing tomorrow has been canceled, and the client notified. Page's mouth opens and closes like a hooked fish. I turn to Uncle Richard. Expired leases have been reviewed. You have 30 days to vacate cabin 11, which will then return to regular inventory. Finally, I face Charlene, sliding a sealed envelope toward her. This contains documented complaints from staff regarding your behavior over the past decade, along with a draft press release about Pine Rock's new harassment-free workplace policy. I stand, gathering my portfolio. I have an early meeting about the resort's renewable energy installation. Enjoy your dessert. The chocolate soufflé is particularly good tonight. Walking away, I feel 10 years of silence lifting from my shoulders. Behind me, their carefully constructed social facade crumbles like sandcastles at high tide. Joel follows me out, catching my arm in the lobby. His face shows the first genuine recognition of who I am, who I've always been. Valerie, he whispers, his voice strangled. I had no idea. That, I say quietly, has always been our problem. He followed me out. The cabin door clicked shut behind Joel. He stood in the entryway, his silhouette darkened against the moonlight filtering through the windows. I sat in the armchair by the stone fireplace, legs tucked beneath her, a glass of Cabernet untouched on the side table. Why didn't you tell me? His voice hung in the air between them, not accusatory, just hollow. I looked up from the dancing flames. You never asked about this or about me for 10 years. The truth settled around us like dust after an explosion. Joel moved to the couch across from me, his academic's posture now slumped with the weight of revelation. I thought we were happy, he said. No. I took a sip of wine, letting the tannic warmth coat my tongue. You were comfortable. I was invisible. Outside the window, Pine Rock Lake reflected the stars, the same view that had witnessed my decision 1 year ago. The mountains stood sentinel, unchanged by human dramas playing out in their shadow. All those meetings, the late nights working. Just another consulting project, I finished for him. That's what you always called my work, Joel. Just little projects, nothing important enough to ask about. He rubbed his palms against his knees, a nervous habit from their first date that once endeared him to me. Now it just underscored the stranger sitting across from me. "What happens now?" he asked. "You pack. I will stay." My voice remained level, the product of months practicing this moment. "I'll have the papers sent to your office next week." No anger filled the space between us, no shouting, just the quiet acknowledgement of a relationship built on silence, his unwillingness to see me, my unwillingness to demand being seen. Morning arrived with golden light spilling across the dock. I stood with my clipboard, steam rising from my coffee mug into the crisp Montana air. Behind me, the resort sprawled with potential. "Miss Benton?" Resort manager Thomas Morgan approached with a folder. "The sustainability proposals you requested." "Thank you, Thomas." I took the folder, their professional exchange unmarred by the family drama still reverberating through the property. "Has Mrs. Benton Sr. checked out yet?" "Left at dawn. Miss Page is still packing. She asked about scheduling a meeting with you regarding a potential partnership." I allowed myself a small smile. Tell her my calendar is full for the foreseeable future. I walked the property as the sun climbed higher, nodding to groundskeepers who straightened at my approach. Not from fear, but respect. The architect in me saw not what was, but what could be: solar panels along the southern rooflines, restored wetlands at the lake's edge, staff housing with dignity built into every detail. In the main office, I paused before a wall map of the property. With a red marker, I circled a small peninsula jutting into the lake. "This cabin," I told Thomas, "I want it renovated as my permanent residence." "The old boathouse, it needs substantial work." "I know exactly what it needs." I traced the shoreline with my finger. "Privacy, sustainability, a place that's truly mine." Joel's suitcases stood by the door when I returned to their cabin that evening. His academic papers cleared from the desk, his books boxed by the fireplace. "I found a position at Pacific Northwest University," he said, his voice tinged with something like regret. "I'll be gone by morning." I nodded, the weight of a decade lifting from her shoulders. "I wish you well, Joel." "Did you ever love me?" he asked, his last attempt to understand. I considered lying, offering comfort in our final moments. Instead, I gave him the truth he'd never sought before. "I loved who I thought you could be."